Wow, guys, Showtime's event, Tyron Woodley versus Jake Paul, is in the books. Jake Paul scores a split decision victory over the welterweight legend from the UFC, Tyron Woodley. Guys, I thought it was a draw. I think win, lose, draw. I think all of us agreed on the live stream that if Tyron let it go to the judges, he was going to end up falling short, regardless of what the fight showed. I think Jake landed a little more volume, but definitely the more ferocious punches were landed by Tyron Woodley in that fight. And if Tyron Woodley gets that "I love Jake Paul" tattoo, then Jake Paul says they can run it back. I think if they run it back again, Tyron Woodley's going to beat him.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I do think Tyron would beat him in the rematch. I also think this was very much a draw. I scored it 4 rounds to 4 rounds apiece.
Me too.
I thought it was obvious, but when you saw the Showtime live score coming in 7-1 Jake Paul, which was just so ludicrous, you kind of had the feeling the fix was in. And I know you said you trust Showtime. I far from trust Showtime. We already had the incident with Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul where it appeared Floyd Mayweather held Logan Paul up. And now this, I don't trust Showtime one bit in not fixing fights. I think they lost a lot of credibility tonight.
Espinoza. Have you ever seen a weasel like Espinoza? That's what Jack's saying. Showtime. Espinoza. No good.
I think they lost a lot of credibility tonight.
Bane, how did you feel, brother?
You know, you guys both make great points. It really was a contest that was back and forth. You think the effectiveness and significance of the chosen one versus the volume and activity of Jake the Problem Child Paul. While he was fighting on the back foot for the majority of those 8 rounds, he was landing more than Tyron. And this is something that we've talked about many times over the last several years with Woodley's career. The frozen one is a moniker that he has been called because there seems to be an inability to throw the strikes. And that did appear to replicate itself tonight throughout several of the rounds.
After that 4th round, he had that great 4th round. And after that 4th round, he was the frozen one and not the chosen one. He should have come out in that 5th round and looked to kill because he had Jake Paul fucked up against the ropes in that 4th round. Like the most dominant round of the entire fight was Tyron Woodley giving it to Jake Paul in that 4th round. Jake Paul was seeing stars when he hit him with that left.
And then he took the 5th round off, and he completely gave it to him. It seemed like he tried to refill his gas tank for the 5th and 6th round, and then he kind of came out in the 7th, and then he really tried to pour it on in the 8th, but it was a little too late for Tyron Woodley.
I thought it was a draw regardless. I thought it was a draw.
Oh, I agree.
I don't know how any guy could walk out of that fight and feel like, yo, I won that fight. Like, not really, man. I think they should run it back. I think they should run it back. I think Tyron showed that he could throw the boxing a bit. Jake Paul showed that Jack, like I tried to tell you last fight, he's not a bad boxer, man. He's not bad.
I think you're wrong to say it off of Ben Askren, but now with him going against Tyron Woodley and going against a real actual striker, I think Jake Paul has proved that he is legit. He still has to go against a real boxer, though. I mean, what do you think, Bane?
There's definitely a lot to prove for the problem child, but several questions were absolutely answered tonight. This was a test that Jake Paul, in all honesty, did not have to take. There are many other individuals that Paul could have combated against tonight, but he chose a former UFC champion as his opponent and was victorious at the end of the day, regardless of however many people think about it. Officially, it is a split decision for Paul. And to the extent of Tyron Woodley being a 39-year-old 4-fight losing streak to conclude his UFC tenure. You know, the X factor that I was thinking about coming into this one is, look, I like Woodley. But when I think of Tyron Woodley, I think of the Koscheck knockout. I think of the Robbie Lawler knockout. That's not Woodley. That's not Woodley.
That's not Woodley anymore.
Even the Darren Till fight, years removed from it, we just have not seen him show up. So while this was his biggest test, and this was a legitimate opponent, a veteran of the combat sports scene in the chosen one, I just don't think that you really proved as much as you could have. And again, which legit boxer does the problem child come on to next? Tommy Fury.
It's going to be Tommy
there.
Fury. It's going to be Tommy. They had him on the card for a reason. And
Is
listen,
that a legit boxer?
No, listen. I saw him fight Pretty Boy tonight. If you put Tommy Fury and Jake Paul in front of me tomorrow, I'm taking Jake Paul.
So if you put Tyron Woodley and Tommy Fury in front of me, though, I'm taking Tyron Woodley.
Yeah, of course.
I think it's another step back. It's not a legit boxer. Who has Tommy Fury fought?
But Jack, it's calculated. Jake Paul is very smart. The guy had LED shorts on, for God's sakes. This kid knows how to promote himself. He knows what he's doing. He took on Askren, and then he bumped up and said, okay, Woodley's in his corner. Woodley, he has knocked people out, but he's actually a wrestler. So let's sell him as the UFC striker that can fight.
Yeah, but let's be honest. Do you agree that Tyron Woodley defeats Tommy Fury in a boxing match?
Yes. I think Tyron Woodley could stop Tommy Fury.
I agree.
I don't even think it would have to go to decision. I think some of those shots that Tyron hit Jake with would rock Tommy's world.
We look at a lot of the defensive holes that Tommy Fury does appear to have. Again, the 22-year-old from the UK is young in the career, but to Jack's point, has tried to answer the same questions Paul's been trying to answer to a lesser extent. A Bellator fighter in Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor, who is 7-5 as a mixed martial artist, 0-1 as a professional boxer. If Tommy Fury wants to make statements and make waves, he does need to pass a more legitimate test. So to that extent, it would make sense to face off against Paul, because Paul has now proven that he does have some skills and has found ways to win inside the squared circle. If Fury does want to say to the world, hey, I am a legit boxer, take me seriously, Jake the Problem Child Paul would be my logical next step. Well, it does seem like a step back maybe overall. Within the confines of the boxing realm, Tommy Fury and Jake Paul makes a decent amount of sense.
Listen,
I really want to see Jake Paul take on a legitimate boxer, and Tommy Fury just is not that. But
no, I agree. But listen, Jake Paul is trying to pick and choose his way to a massive fight. And listen, if Jake Paul gets in the ring against Canelo Alvarez, the people like me and probably even Bane and Jack that are dying to see Jake Paul get knocked out are going to see it when that happens. He's beating up UFC guys. Listen, Tyron Woodley is a wrestler. He is a wrestler. He is. I saw one of the promos. It's like expert striker, Tyron Woodley. Bull fucking shit. Bullshit. He's an expert striker. I love Tyron Woodley, and I wouldn't say that, but he did a damn good job tonight. It was a draw. Anybody that calls that fight a win is a clown. And the biggest clown of the night was Logan Paul trying to talk shit at Tyron too. Like, you're not even close to as good as your little brother, and Tyron would separate your fucking head just like fucking Floyd did before he held you up at the end of that round. That guy's a bird. But Jake Paul's a tough kid, man. I give him credit.
Yeah. And I think
I don't know how that happened.
I was just about to say, I think that's all we got for this. I think that settles it. So hit it again.
Kablamo.